On my 30th birthday, I was kicked out of the house I paid for. No screaming. No fight. Just a bowl of cereal, a bank statement on the kitchen table, and my mother saying, "We need you to cover the property tax again." I stared at her for a long time. My dad wouldn't look at me, just kept tapping something into his iPad like he always did when he wanted to disappear. Kyle wasn't even home. He never was. Probably sleeping off another hangover in someone's apartment he'd never have to help clean. I swallowed the ache in my throat and finally said it. "I'm done." 3 words. That's all it took to detonate the entire illusion. I'm done paying for everything. The mortgage. The cars. Kyle's rehab bills. All of it. My mom's smile didn't even flicker. She just raised her eyebrows like I'd threatened to burn the place down. "Josh, don't be dramatic. You know we can't afford this without you." "That's exactly the point," I said, standing up. "You can't afford the house. But you've been living like you can because I've been paying for it since I was 20. My dad looked up now. His face was tight, controlled. "Are you drunk? Because this attitude on your birthday is disgusting." I laughed. Actually laughed. Because of course. That's what it always was, deflection. Attack. Gaslight. Then guilt. Mom crossed her arms. "If you're not going to help this family, maybe you shouldn't live here anymore." I blinked. "Are you serious?" She shrugged. "It's not a threat. Just, maybe it's time. For all of us." I wanted to scream. I wanted to smash something. I wanted to call Kyle and ask if he thought this was fair, too, but I knew better. He'd take their side. He always did. Because they never asked anything of him. They never needed to. So I walked upstairs. I packed 2 duffel bags. Just the essentials, laptop, clothes, the lockbox with my documents. I didn't speak as I passed them on the way out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't say goodbye. I just left. And in my car, alone in the driveway I paid to have repaved last spring, I smiled. Because they thought I'd been sleepwalking all these years. They didn't know I'd been wide awake the whole time. I used to think I was born into a normal family. We had birthdays with sheet cake and cheap candles. Christmas mornings with ripped wrapping paper and forced smiles. On the outside, we looked like any lower-middle-class suburban household, tight finances, louder than average, but held together by love. The truth is, we were held together by control. And I was the glue. When I was 11, my dad lost his job. He told everyone he left voluntarily, but I overheard a conversation late at night. He was fired for yelling at his manager in front of clients. Mom cried for a week, then picked up part-time work at a salon. From then on, every adult problem became a Josh problem. When the power got shut off, it was me who lit candles and walked Kyle to bed like everything was fine. When Mom overdrafted the checking account, I'd ride my bike to the corner store and convince the clerk to let me buy bread on credit. When Dad got drunk and broke the coffee table, I told Kyle it was just an accident and helped clean it up before school. By 14, I had a job bagging groceries. Not for pocket money for rent. They never asked, not really. They just made it sound heroic. "You're saving us, Josh. We don't know what we'd do without you. Kyle's still a baby, but you're special." Kyle was only 2 years younger, but he might as well have been raised on a different planet. He got rides to school while I took the bus in rain. He had a new Xbox while I made do with hand-me-down phones. If I asked for help with homework, I was told to figure it out because you're the smart one, Josh. When I got into community college at 18, Mom cried tears of pride, then handed me a stack of bills and said, "We'll need your help with these until things get better." Things never got better. At 21, I took a full-time job at a warehouse to pay down their second mortgage. At 24, I co-signed a loan when Dad wanted to start a business that never left the planning phase. At 26, I refinanced my credit to keep their car from being repossessed. Kyle? He dropped out of college after 1 semester. Got a DUI at 22. Started a band. Got another DUI. Lived at home rent-free. Is every failure chalked up to bad luck and mental health? But me? If I ever complained, I was reminded how much they'd sacrificed for me. You have a roof, don't you? You eat dinner every night, right? You think your friends' parents love them like we love you? By 28, I was paying for their life, Kyle's mistakes, and my own rent after I moved into the basement for privacy. And through it all, I said nothing. Because when you're raised to be the hero, you don't get to walk away. Until you do. They always said, "We're a family. We take care of each other." But what they meant was I take care of them. It wasn't just money. That was the obvious part, the easiest to justify. It was the 1,000 invisible weights they dropped on me every single day, the emotional crises, the guilt trips, the "can we just talk" conversations that turned into hour-long monologues about how hard their lives were and how lucky they were to have a son like me. I was their therapist, accountant, IT guy, chauffeur, and mediator. If Kyle screwed up, it was my job to fix it. If Dad stormed out, I had to chase him down. If Mom was spiraling, I'd come home from work to find her crying on the kitchen floor, needing someone to listen. But no one ever asked how I was doing. Not once. There's this one memory I can't shake. I was 22, sitting in urgent care with a stomach ulcer I didn't know I had. I'd been throwing up for days, couldn't hold anything down. The doctor asked, gently, if I'd been under any extreme stress. I laughed. Actually laughed. Because it was either that or cry. I went home with prescriptions and instructions to rest. I told my mom I needed a week to recover. She blinked and said, "That's gonna be tricky. Your dad needs a ride to his court date and Kyle's band has a gig downtown. He asked if you'd help with sound check." I just nodded. Because if I said no, I'd be the bad guy. That's how they controlled me, not through threats or violence, but through love. That thick, heavy, suffocating kind of love that feels like a hug with arms too tight. You're the strong one. You've always been so responsible. You're not like Kyle. He couldn't handle it. They turned my strength into a prison. And any time I tried to draw a line, they'd look wounded. Like I was betraying them. Like I owed them my soul because they fed me and clothed me and never hit me. Not really. Even their praise felt like a trap. "You're the only one who understands me," my mom whispered once after one of her episodes. If I lost you, I don't know what I'd do. I didn't know then that was emotional blackmail. I just thought it meant I mattered. The worst part? I started believing I was choosing this. That I was the good son, the noble one, the helper. I wore it like armor. It took years before I realized it wasn't armor. It was a leash. And every time I tried to loosen it, they'd call it love and pull harder. The first receipt I saved was from a tow company. Kyle had taken Mom's car without permission while drunk, totaled a neighbor's mailbox, and ditched the car 3 blocks away. I paid $437 to get it out of impound and another $95 for the mailbox. My mom promised, "We'll pay you back next week." They never did. After that, I started keeping track. At first, it was small text messages, Venmo screenshots, emails. But over time, it grew. I made folders on my laptop, backed them up in the cloud. I labeled everything: mortgage payments, Kyle's rehab, utilities, car repairs, loan cosign, therapy notes. Yes, therapy. I finally started going when I was 27. It was the first thing I ever did that felt purely for me. The therapist, Diana, was blunt in a way that scared me. "You're not a son to them," she said in our second session. "You're a resource." I remember sitting there, stunned. She told me about something called parentification, when a child is forced to take on adult responsibilities, usually because the parents won't. It was like she'd cracked my chest open and read the script my life was based on. "You keep giving them everything," she said, "because you think love is something you earn." That hit hard. So I started pulling back, quietly. I stopped jumping at every phone call. Stopped sending money before they asked. I didn't make a scene. I just started watching, measuring, documenting. They noticed. At first, they tried kindness. "You've just seemed distant lately. Is something wrong, sweetie?" Then came guilt. "We just worry you're forgetting who you are." When that didn't work, they moved to anger. "Don't start thinking you're better than us, Josh." But I kept going. I stopped fixing things around the house. I let Dad's overdue cable bill stay overdue. When Kyle forgot his insurance payment, I didn't offer to cover it. He lost his license for 3 months. That's when Mom started talking about boundaries, like they were some weapon I was using against them. "You're shutting us out," she said, tears in her eyes. I wanted to say, "No, I'm finally letting you feel the weight of your own lives." Instead, I just nodded. Then I kept saving everything. Because deep down, I knew the day would come when they'd try to erase the truth. Rewrite it. Pretend I was never the one holding it all together. And I wanted to be ready. Not for revenge. For freedom. The letter was 18 pages long. I started writing it the night after they kicked me out. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I opened my laptop, created a folder titled Inheritance of Lies, and I began. I wrote everything. Not just numbers or dates, but memories. Moments that twisted me into someone I didn't recognize anymore. I wrote about Kyle's DUIs, the rehab stints I paid for, the insurance claims I forged so they wouldn't lose the house. I wrote about how they made me sleep in a moldy basement while Kyle got the upstairs guest room because he needed the sunlight. I included scanned receipts. bank transfers, screenshots of my parents begging for money, and then pretending in family group chats that Kyle had finally gotten a job or that they'd scraped together enough to fix the roof. They lied constantly to our extended family, made themselves out to be survivors, salt of the earth martyrs holding a broken household together. They said I chose to help, said I was generous. They never mentioned they guilted me into signing for loans while threatening to kick Kyle out if I didn't. Never said the house was only still standing because I paid the taxes on it 3 years in a row. So I told everyone. I printed the letter on cream linen paper, the kind you'd use for wedding vows or eulogies. I labeled every envelope with handwritten names: Aunt Melissa, Uncle Rob, Cousin Janie, even Kyle's high school coach, the one who always called my dad a great man. Inside each envelope was the letter, the documents, and a flash drive with folders labeled by year. I mailed 23 of them. 2 days later, the first text came. It was from my cousin Janie. Josh, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. This changes everything. Then came the rest. Aunt Melissa emailed a scanned copy of a check she'd sent my parents last year after they told her Kyle had cancer. My godfather forwarded a Facebook message from my mom claiming I was struggling with addiction, and that's why I distanced myself. The lies were layered, deep, built like scaffolding around a house of rot. By the end of the week, the group chat for our extended family reunion, Family Forever, was shut down after Uncle Rob asked point blank, "So, who else got milked dry by these two?" Mom called me 12 times. Left voicemails sobbing, then raging, then begging me to fix what I broke. Dad sent one message. "Hope you're proud. You've humiliated your mother. You're not welcome back here." I stared at it for a long time. Then I blocked them both. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt clean. After the letters went out, I didn't say a word. No follow-ups. No Facebook posts. No dramatic rants. I let the facts speak for themselves. And the silence? That drove them insane. My mom tried everything. She sent a long, open letter to our extended family, claiming I was mentally unstable and had always been troubled. She attached baby photos. Said I was never quite right after that head injury in 3rd grade. Then she made a new account on Instagram under Kyle's name and started tagging me in blurry, smiling family photos with captions like "Forgiveness is the only way forward." I didn't respond. Kyle wasn't any quieter. He posted a video on TikTok accusing me of manipulating the narrative and hating my own family because I was never cool growing up. He said I was jealous of his freedom, his creativity. Said I was the kind of guy who measures love in Excel sheets. That part actually made me laugh. Because yeah, I did keep records. But I also remember sitting in the ER waiting room alone after Dad collapsed from drinking too much. I remember holding Mom's hand during a panic attack while Kyle locked himself in his room and blasted music. I remember missing every date night, every weekend away, every bit of life, so they could keep pretending theirs was fine. None of them mentioned that. And still, I stayed quiet. Not because I didn't have more to say, but because I finally understood something my therapist once told me. Sometimes silence is the loudest boundary you can set. I moved into a small apartment 2 towns over. No roommates. No borrowed furniture. Just me, a bed I actually picked out, and a second-hand table I refinished myself. It smelled like lemon oil and possibility. I got a new phone number. Changed my emergency contact to a friend from work. Started taking walks in the evening, just to feel what it was like to exist without dread pooling in my stomach. One day, a letter arrived. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. My father's. It was short. 8 words, scribbled on a yellow sticky note. "Congratulations. You burned it all down. You win." But I didn't feel like I'd won. There was no triumph. No vengeance. Just space. Breath. Stillness. I wasn't trying to destroy them. I was just trying to stop being destroyed.